You did not know how many other firms have been sold data by Dr. Kogan other than Cambridge Analytica and Inoya Technologies, even though you were asked that question yesterday.
I don't know the answer to that exactly off the top of my head either, but that's something that we can follow up with you on.
In the end, Americans do not like to be manipulated. They do not like to be spied on. We don't like it when someone is outside of our home watching.
I believe that
yes or no?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure. I don't think that that's what we're tracking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zuckerberg, thank you for your patience. I am a daily Facebook user, much to my staff's distress. I do it myself. And because we need a little humor, I'm even married to a 91-year-old man that's the king of Twitter. But I know Facebook's value. I've used it for a long time. But with that value also comes obligation. We've all been sitting here for more than 4 hours. But some things are striking during this conversation. As CEO, you didn't know some key facts. You didn't know about major court cases regarding your privacy policies against your company. You didn't know that the FTC doesn't have fining authority and that Facebook could not have received fines for the 2011 consent order. You didn't know what a shadow profile was. You didn't know how many apps you need to audit. You did not know how many other firms have been sold data by Dr. Kogan other than Cambridge Analytica and Inoya Technologies, even though you were asked that question yesterday. And yes, we were all paying attention yesterday. You don't even know all the kinds of information Facebook is collecting from its own users. Here's what I do know. You have trackers all over the web. On practically every website you go to, we all see the Facebook like or Facebook share buttons. And with the Facebook pixel, people browsing the internet may not even see that Facebook logo. It doesn't matter whether you have a Facebook account. Through those tools, Facebook is able to collect information from all of us. So I want to ask you, how many Facebook like buttons are there on non-Facebook web pages?
Congresswoman, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but we'll get back to you.
Is the number over 100 million?
I believe we've served the like button on pages more than that, but I don't know the number of pages that have the like button on actively.
How many Facebook share buttons are there on non-Facebook web pages?
I don't know the answer to that exactly off the top of my head either, but that's something that we can follow up with you on.
And do we think that's over 100 million? Likely. How many chunks of Facebook pixel code are there on non-Facebook web pages?
Congresswoman, you're asking some specific stats that I don't know off the top of my head, but we can follow up with you and get back to you on all of these.
Can you commit to get back to the committee? The European Union is asking for 72 hours on transparency. Do you think we could get that back in committee in 72 hours?
Congresswoman, I will talk to my team and we will follow up.
I know you're still reviewing, but do you know now whether there are other fourth parties that had access to the data from someone other than Dr. Kogan? Or is this something we're going to find out in a press release down the road? I think what worries all of us, and you've heard it today, is it has taken almost 3 years to hear about that. And I am convinced that there are other people out there.
Congresswoman, as I've said a number of times, we're now going to investigate every single app that had access to a large amount of people's information in the past before we lock down the platform. I do imagine that we will find some apps that were either doing something suspicious or misused people's data. If we find them, then we will ban them from the platform, take action to make sure that they delete the data, and make sure that everyone involved is informed.
And you make it public quickly, not 3 years. Thanks.
As soon as we find them.
So I'm going to conclude, because my time's almost up, that I worry that when I hear companies value our privacy, that's meant in monetary terms, not in the moral obligation to protect it. Data protection and privacy are like clean air and clean water. There need to be clear rules of the road.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Pennsylvania. Gentlelady from California, Ms. Walters, for 4 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for being here. One of my biggest concerns is the misuse of consumer data and what controls users have over their information. You have indicated that Facebook users have granular control over their own content and who can see it. As you can see on the screen, on the left is a screenshot of the on-off choice for apps, which must be on for users to use apps that require a Facebook login and which allows apps to collect your information. On the right is a screenshot of what a user sees when they want to change the privacy settings on a post, photo, or other content. Same account, same user. But which control governs? The app platform access or the user's decision as to who they want to see a particular post?
Sorry, could you repeat the...
So which app governs, okay, or which control governs? The app platform access or the user's decision as to who they want to see a particular post? So if you look up there on the screen.
Yeah. Congresswoman, so when you're using the service, if you share a photo, for example, and you say, I only want my friends to see it, then in Newsfeed and Facebook, only your friends are going to see it. If you then go to a website, and then you want to sign into that website can ask you and say, hey, here are the things that I want to get access to in order for you to use the website. If you sign in after seeing that screen where the website is asking for certain information, then you are also authorizing that website to have access to that information. If you've turned off the platform completely, which is what the control is that you have on the left, then you wouldn't be able to sign into another website. You'd have to go reactivate this before that would even work.
Okay, do you think that the average Facebook user understands that is how it works, and how would they find this out?
Congresswoman, I think that the settings when you're signing into an app are quite clear. In terms of every time you go to sign into an app, you have to go through a whole screen that says, here's the app, here's your friends who use it, here are the pieces of information that it would like to have access to. You make a decision whether you sign in, yes or no, and until you say, I want to sign in, nothing gets shared. Similarly, in terms of sharing content, every single time that you go to upload a photo, you have to make a decision. It's right there at the top. It says, are you sharing this with your friends or publicly or with some group? And every single time that's quite clear. So in those cases, yes, I think that this is quite clear.
Okay, so these user control options are in different locations. And it seems to me that putting all privacy control options in a single location would be more user-friendly. Why aren't they in the same location?
Well, Congresswoman, we typically do two things. We have a settings page that has all of your settings in one place in case you want to go and play around or configure your settings. But the more important thing is putting the settings in line when you're trying to make a decision. So if you're going to share a photo now, we think that your setting about who you want to share that photo with should be in line right there. If you're going to sign into an app, we think that it should be very clear right in line when you're signing into the app what permissions that app is asking for. So we do both. It's both in one place in settings if you want to go to it, and it's in line in the relevant place.
Okay, California has been heralded by many on this committee for its privacy initiatives. Given that you and other major tech companies are in California and we are still experiencing privacy issues, how do you square the two?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So given that you and other major tech companies are in California and we are still experiencing privacy issues, how do you square the two?
What was the other piece?
California has been heralded by many in this committee for its privacy initiatives.
Well, Congresswoman, I think that privacy is not something that you can ever... It's our understanding of the issues between people and how they interact online only grows over time. So I think we'll figure out what the social norms are and the rules that we want to put in place. And then 5 years from now, we'll come back and we'll have learned more things. And either that'll just be that social norms have evolved and the company's practices have evolved, or we'll put rules in place. But I think that our understanding of this is going to evolve over quite a long time. So I would expect that even if a state like California is forward-leaning, that's not necessarily going to mean that we fully understand everything or have solved all the issues.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Recognize the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Dingle, for...
Thank you for being
This is the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Castor, for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Zuckerberg. For all of the benefits that Facebook has provided in building communities and connecting families, I think a devil's bargain has been struck. And in the end, Americans do not like to be manipulated. They do not like to be spied on. We don't like it when someone is outside of our home watching. We don't like it when someone is following us around the neighborhood, or even worse, following our kids or stalking our children. Facebook now has evolved to a place where you are tracking everyone. You are collecting data on just about everybody. Yes, we understand the Facebook users that proactively sign in are in part of that platform, but you're following Facebook users even after they log off of that platform and application. And you are collecting personal information on people who do not even have Facebook accounts. Isn't that right?
Congresswoman, I believe that
yes or no?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure I don't think that that's what we're tracking.
No, you're collecting, you have already acknowledged that you are doing that for security purposes and commercial purposes. So you're collecting data outside of Facebook. When someone goes to a website and it has the Facebook like or share, that data is being collected by Facebook, correct?
Congresswoman,
yes or no?
That's right, that we understand in order to show which of your friends.
Yeah, so for people who
like
don't even have Facebook, I don't think that the average American really understands that today, something that fundamental. And that you're tracking everyone's online activities, their searches. You can track what people buy, correct?
Congresswoman,
you're collecting that data, what people purchase online. Yes or no?
Actually, if they share it with us, but Congresswoman,
because it has a share button, so it's gathering. Facebook has the application. In fact, you've patented applications to do just that. Isn't that correct? To collect that data.
Congresswoman, I don't think any of those buttons share transaction data. But broadly,
but they
disagree
track
with
you.
the
You're collecting medical data, correct, on people that are on the internet, whether they're Facebook users or not, right?
Congresswoman, yes, we collect some data for
and you're
security
collecting.
purposes
You watch where we go. Senator Durbin had a funny question yesterday about where you're staying, and you didn't want to share that. But Facebook also gathers that data about where we travel. Isn't that correct?
Congresswoman, everyone has control over how that works.
I'm going to get to that, but yes, you are. Would you just acknowledge that? Yes, Facebook that's the business you're in, gathering data and aggregating that data.
Congresswoman, I disagree with that characterization.
You're not. Are you saying you do not gather data on where people travel based upon their internet and the ways they sign in and things like that?
Congresswoman, the primary way that Facebook works is that people choose to share data, and they share
primary way, but
the
other way that Facebook gathers data is you buy data from data brokers outside of the platform, correct?
Congresswoman, we just announced 2 weeks ago that we were going to stop interacting with data brokers. And even though that's an industry norm to make it so that the advertising can be more relevant.
But I think in the end, it's practically impossible these days to remain untracked in America for all the benefits Facebook has brought and the internet. And that's not part of the bargain. And current laws have not evolved, and the Congress has not adopted laws to address digital surveillance, and Congress should act. And I do not believe that the controls, the opaque agreement, consent agreements, the settings are an adequate substitute for fundamental privacy protections for consumers. Now,
Gentlelady's time.
Thank you. I yield back my time.
Gentlelady's time.
Let that stand. And I'd like to ask unanimous consent that I put my constituents' questions in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Chair now recognizes gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Guthrie, for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here. When I first got into public office, the internet was really kicking off, and I had a lot of people complain about ads, just the inconvenience of ads, trying to get in the cumbersome of the internet. I remember telling someone one time, being from Kentucky, a basketball fan, I said, there's nothing I hate worse than the 4-minute timeout, the TV timeout. It's flow of the game and everything. But because of the 4-minute timeout, I get to watch the game for free. So that's something I'm willing to accept to move for free. What you're not really willing to accept is that your data is just out there and it's being used. But it's being used in the right way. And it's funny because I was going to ask this question anyway. My friend, I was planning a family trip to Florida, and I searched a town in Florida, and all of a sudden I started getting ads for a brand of hotel that I typically stay in, at a great hotel at the price available to the public because it was on the internet, that I was willing to pay, and stayed there. And so I thought it was actually convenient. Instead of getting just an ad to some place I'll never go, I got an ad specifically to a place I was looking to go, so I thought that was convenient. And it wasn't Facebook, although my wife used Facebook to message my mother-in-law this weekend for when we were meeting up, so it's very valuable. We get to do that for free because your business model relies on consumer-driven data. This wasn't Facebook, it was a search engine, but they use consumer-driven data to target an ad to me. So you're not unique in Silicon Valley or in this internet world in doing this type of targeted ads, are you?
No, Congressman, you're right. I mean, this is ad-based business models have been a common way that people have been able to offer free services for a long time. And our social mission of trying to help connect everyone in the world relies on having a service that can be affordable for everyone, that everyone can use. And that's why the ads business model is in service of the social mission that we have. And I think sometimes that gets lost, but I think that's a really important point.
But you're different in that instead of getting just when I'm watching the Hilltoppers on basketball, the person advertising me doesn't know anything about me. I'm just watching the ad. So there's no data, no agreement, or no risk, I guess, there. But with you, there is consumer-driven data. But if we were to greatly reduce or stop, or just greatly reduce through legislation the use of consumer-driven data for targeting ads, what do you think that would do to the internet? And when I say internet, I mean everything, not just Facebook.
Well, Congressman, it would make the ads less relevant. So
if we had less revenue, what would that do to them?
Yeah, it would reduce, it would have a number of effects. For people using the services, it would make the ads less relevant to them. For businesses, like the small businesses that use advertising, it would make advertising more expensive because now they would have to pay more to reach more people and efficiently because targeting helps small businesses be able to afford and reach people as effectively as big companies have typically had the ability to do for a long time. It would affect our revenue some amount too, but I think there are a couple of points here that are lost. One is that we already give people the control to not use that data in ads if they want. Most people don't do that. I think part of the reason for that is that people get that if they are going to see ads, that they want them to be relevant. But the other thing is that a lot of what our business, what makes the ads work, or what makes the business good is just that people are very engaged with Facebook. We have more than 1 billion people who spend almost an hour a day across all our services.
I have 30 seconds, so I appreciate the answer to that. But if so I didn't opt out, so forth, and all of a sudden I say, this just doesn't work for me, so I want to delete. You told Congressman Rush that you could delete. What happens to the data? It's there, it's been used, Cambridge Analytics may have it. So what happens when I say, Facebook, take my data off your platform?
If you delete your account, we immediately make it so that your account is no longer available once you're done deleting it. So no one can find you on the service. We wouldn't be able to recreate your account from that. We do have data centers and systems that are redundant, and we have backups in case something bad happens. And over a number of days, we'll go through and make sure that we flush all the content out of the system. But as soon as you delete your account, effectively that content is dismantled, and we wouldn't be able to put your account back together if we wanted.
Gentleman's time.
Well, thank you. My time is right. I appreciate it.